Everyone talks about the wolfman, the Lycan, the lycanthrope when it comes to werewolf, but no one ever talks about the feral wolf child. If you ever thought that feral children had nothing to do with werewolf mythology, think again, because the phrase wild child and idiom raised by wolves is closely associated and attached to the werewolf than you can ever know. Raised by wolves. What does that phrase mean? It's commonly known as a child who seems to have no language skills, manners, or human socialization, and is often said to be associated with wolves. What is the wild feral child? The wild feral child is a child raised without human parental contact and are raised instead by wild animals. However, there has said to have been alleged actual cases of real wild feral children who were raised by wolves and other animals, but this has never really been proven true and only thought upon as legend and hoaxes. For the purpose of this video, I am not mentioning accounts of alleged modern-day real feral children, as it has nothing to do with wild werewolf mythology and lore. So how is the catch-all phrase of raised by wolves and term wolf children related and connected to actual werewolf mythology? I would like to tell you there is much mention about feral children werewolf lore. Modern-day essays that have been written on studies about werewolves and werewolf mythology suggest the wolf child as being and having a significant relationship between both the actual wolf, werewolf, and the wolf spectral other. Moreover, the wolf children is categorized as a type of incarnation of the werewolf, but only depending based on the cultural representation of the actual wolf and the osculation of the werewolf, as seen in nature and culture. Thus, the wolf child is said to emulate the same liminal quality as the werewolf, hovering between humanity and animality. Moreover, like the werewolf, the wolf child invokes horror, but not just a fictional horror, but real life one. And prior to the 1600s, the wild wolf child, who was raised by wolves, were only limited to legend and myth. In fact, the notion of wolf children goes back all the way to ancient times. It is only in our modern day period that the wolf wild child has become romanticized, depicted throughout different genres of literature, thus dramatizing the traumatic alienation of the wolf child from society, or rather phrased, the dark other, also depicting the idyllic freedom of a child of nature, linking the child itself to the wilderness. In most of those romanticized tales, the feral wolf child is usually lost or abandoned before being found, or adopted after having an encounter or being raised with wolf or other animal. This romanticization of the wolf child has led it to become a regular fiction trope used by many and are at the core of many authors' stories, from Tarzan to the Jungle Book. However, even in our modern-day werewolf stories and literature involving the wild feral wolf child, the werewolf assimilates to with what is now a wolf child motif due to the fact the stories themselves will usually dwell on the aspect of the nurturing of the wolf mother within a situated werewolf pack. Shakespeare has even mentioned the wolf being a nurturer of children in his work, The Winter's Tale. With that being said, in my current work in progress werewolf novel, I also explore the trope of the feral wolf child. But before I mention how I utilize the feral wolf child motif that I created in my story, let me tell you about 4 myths and legends of feral wolf children that may or may have not been werewolves. Number 1. Romulus and Remus. How did they become the most famous feral wild wolf children in werewolf lore? Well, everyone has heard of the legendary founders of Rome, right? Romulus and Remus, twin brothers, the feral wild children who were supposedly born from the god Mars and the priestess Rhea Silvia, daughter of Numitor. It is speculated because it is said their father might have been Hercules. Well, if you don't, and if you do remember, there's a little more to the story than you might know. Well, the usual story goes a lot like this. They were abandoned in the forest near the Tiber River, left to die by orders of their uncle, the king, who absconded the throne from them. He must have been really scared because he was afraid to kill the children by his own sword due to the wraths of the gods. I couldn't find how long the children were abandoned, but versions of the myth, those of Livy, Plutarch, and Dionysius of Halicarnassus, all draw heavily on Quintus Fabius Pictor versions of the myth, saying the river god Tiberinus was said to have kept the two boys safe by calming the water and caused their basket they were in to be washed ashore at the Palestine hill that was near a fig tree. The basket that was containing the twins gently went with the receding water until it struck on a stone, flipping the twins in the basket into the mud. The twins cried in their basket until the waters receded and left them back on land. It might have been around this time the waters receded that the she-wolf then found them near and around Lupercal caves, the cave southwest foot of the Palatine Hill in Rome. Some versions of the myth say the she-wolf was out looking for food herself when the twins were crying. Instead of killing them, she cleaned them up and nursed them back to health, and that along with a woodpecker helped bring them food. We don't know for sure how much time had passed when the she-wolf took care of them, but it is said after some time the twins were found by the shepherd Faustulus and took the children home to his wife. Once again, we don't know how much time passed between when the she-wolf found and kept them and when Faustulus found them with the she-wolf, but they were supposedly still small infants or toddlers. The she-wolf is scared off, chased into the Lupercal caves, and never seen again. However, this is not the last we hear from her. In fact, she played an important role in the founding of Rome. After the twins grew up and became shepherds, they founded Rome in the very spot they were found by the she-wolf. That day, they were abandoned and were to be killed by their uncle. My research says that apparently the twins saw the she-wolf as their mother and protector because she nourished them and helped strengthen them. Thus, this is why the wolf became a symbol of Rome, and that the legend of how they were found is so ingrained into the hearts of the people of Rome. It's because that particular wolf became not only the heart and mother of Romulus and Remus, but to the people of the city as well. But this is not all. Could Romulus and Remus have been actual wolf children? The werewolf was an animal symbol, companion to the god Mars. Since he was the father of Romulus and Remus, it makes sense that a she-wolf would come to the rescue of the two twins. There were stories of wolves walking into the city towards the capital where Romulus' statue sits. There was often an annual wolf festival, the Lupercalia, running for half of February. This religious festival was designed to purify the city and ward off evil. Number 2, the Wolf Boys of Hesse. According to records kept by monks in the local town of Hesse, Germany, through the years 1304, 1341, and 1344, 3 different children, boys around the ages 7 through 12, was found, but some say captured by soldiers in the forest. Apparently, they had lived with a pack of wolves. None of the boys, when found, could not talk and was said to walk on all fours, growling at the soldiers that found him. They would not eat anything except for raw meat. They were also said to be immune to cold and discomfort. Apparently, the wolves raised and protected them until the soldiers found them. The first boy who was found among the wolves in 1304, when the soldiers took him to live with the monks, he was never able to learn speech and soon died because he would not eat anything. But the second boy, who was found around 1341, would learn to speak and told the monks that he had been raised by the wolves for at least 3 years. He went on to relay that the wolves raised him wondrously, as any food they found, they would give him first. In winter, the wolves would place leaves around him and lay against him to keep him warm. Even though these cases are said to be documented, it is as close to myth and legend of werewolves than we can possibly perceive. perceived because no one knows where these boys came from. It was even said by the one boy who was found that the wolves compelled him to creep on hands and feet and to run with them for a long time, from which practice the boy would imitate their speed and was able to make the greatest leaps. Some accounts and speculated analysis of the documented occurrence say the wolves snatched up the children and took them into the forest with the intention of eating them. But for some reason, instead of eating them, the wolves chose to protect them and nurture them, much like the she-wolf that nurtured the feral children Romulus and Remus. Number 3, John of Liege. Said to be one of the first English accounts of the discovery of a feral child, John of Liege was thought to be a threat to the hierarchy between both human and animals. But why? This story began one day in the early 17th century during the religious wars in Belgium, when the villagers in Liege noticed something disturbing their pigs at night and concurred that it might be some strange animal and decided to band together to catch what was bothering the pigs. However, the creature invaded them, so they set traps, but the discovery of the creature turned out not to be a creature at all, but a human being, the boy man John of Liege. English connoisseur and diplomat Sir Kenelm Digby recorded that John of Liege at 5 had ran into the woods to escape soldiers during the religious wars that plagued his village. But after the fighting was over, he never returned to the village until 16 years later as a boy man who lost the ability to speak and also said to have canine senses and, like a wolf, was able to smell from great distances away. Digby speculated that John of Liege fell somewhere along the spectrum between man and animal, and that the people were worried and scared and saw him as a threat because after returning to society, John of Liege learned to eventually speak again and accumulate well into society. Number 4, the Wolf Girl of Devil's River. This legend is an intriguing one because it is the rarest of its kind in North America. Said to happen a long time ago in Texas, near Del Rio, is the story about the Wolf Girl of Devil River. Accounts start by telling about a mother who has died from childbirth and father who has died in a thunderstorm, leaving a baby girl alone. But then what happens next is told that the baby girl was never seen again, and the locals presumed that wolves then took the baby away to be eaten. However, years later, a young boy finds a girl with long hair attacking a herd of goats with a pack of wolves. The story is not believed, but a year after that incident, a woman was said to find a girl in a pack of wolves eating a freshly killed goat. The woman noticed the girl walked on all fours, and then when the girl noticed the women, stood up and ran away with the wolves on foot. The story that the woman told made the people of the town become vigilant, and then a hunt was arranged. On the 3rd day of the hunt, they finally found the girl running with wolves. They managed to corner her and separate her from the wolves in a canyon, but the girl was said to fight, claw, and bite the party, but they soon were able to lasso her in order to keep her still. But while they were doing so, she began to howl, and wolves rushed and attacked the party, but someone managed to shoot the wolf, and at that point, the girl fainted. The party that retrieved her thus took her away, examined her, and locked her in a shed. That night, they took her away. They heard howling, and they saw a wolf pack surrounding the shed. The wolves then charged the area, attacking all the animals near where the girl was held captive. The party of men tried to scare them away, but they were unable to do so, and the girl was able to escape. She was not seen after that incident until 7 years later, when reports went around saying there were glimpses of human-faced wolves in the area. Others have reported that they have seen her ghost. Could the girl have been an actual werewolf feral child? Well, we'll never really know, but that was the legend that was told throughout Texas. There are in fact other legends about feral wild wolf children, where some accounts tell of children who have been cursed to hunt as werewolves, but these 4 that I mentioned are more on the folklore myth side of the feral child trope, and most likely were the influence most fiction media like Tarzan and the Jungle Book. Moreover, the feral wolf children throughout modern history have been more as a sociological study on humanity and language, which does not really justify the werewolf. However, the feral wolf child exuberates a type of counterpart image of the werewolf, showing more a gentle side other than the demonized idea of the wolf as a whole. I will continue to mention other accounts of feral children, many other videos, and how authors use the feral child trope in their fiction at a later time. Wait, there's more. Bonus. The feral wolf child trope in my current werewolf work in progress novel. In my current work in progress werewolf novel during the Blue Hour, there are feral humans that are called Les Ferals. They are both children and adults who are taken by the Werewolf Council and are experimented on and injected with werewolf blood that is laced with ergot fungi residue in order to create a stronger werewolf army. They are very, very strong wolf-like creatures with claws and fangs, fast and perceptive, having the ability to attack anybody in their path. If you like this werewolf fact video and you want to see more content involving my work in progress during the Blue Hour, follow, like, share, but first let's start a dialogue. Do you believe any of the 4 werewolf myths, legends about feral wolf children were true? What do you think about the feral wolf child as being an incarnation of a werewolf? What other topics about werewolves would you like to see? I want to know, so let me know in the comments below. Future topics I will explore: 4 types of poison to weaken a werewolf.